I'm going to show you today how to make a chocolate pudding which cooks so that it makes its own sauce whilst it's cooking. So the first thing I'm going to do is to just grease this dish really well so that it doesn't stick, and it is worth doing this. I know people are tempted to skip this step sometimes, but if you grease your dish really nicely it makes it ever so much easier to serve, and you don't leave anything behind on the dish that then gets wasted. So I've just used that old margarine paper there. And now I'm going to cream together 6 ounces of unsalted butter. You can use margarine, that's perfectly okay, particularly if you've got people with dairy allergies. And 8 ounces of soft brown, light brown sugar. Popping those into my mixer bowl together, and then I'm just going to cream those with my electric whisk until it's light and fluffy. So I've creamed that butter and brown sugar together, as you can see. It takes a bit of doing this, and it is worth sticking with it to get it really well mixed in. And I don't know whether you can hear that noise, but that noise on the edge of the bowl is the kind of grain of the sugar on the bowl. So that noise also says it's not quite mixed enough yet. It's still quite hard, and it can be a lot lighter and fluffier than this. So I'm going to go on beating that probably for another 2 or 3 minutes to get it really nice and light. Just cracking 3 eggs into this mug here, cracking them into something separate just to make sure, I'm absolutely certain that they're all okay before we whisk them up with a fork and get them ready to add into the cake mixture. You can tell an egg that's okay. You will smell it really quickly if the egg's not okay when you crack it open. And also, if you want to be sure before you crack them, you can put eggs into water, and if they float and they're not fresh, because the air has started to get inside the shell and to expand, and that's what makes it float. So if they sink to the bottom, the eggs are good and fresh and good for using. So I've just whisked that nicely together there, just loosely with a fork, and I'm going to add it now to my butter and sugar recipe mixture and give it a good old whisk together. So I'm going to add this a little bit at a time, not tiny bits, but a glug at a time, but mix it in each time rather than putting it all in at once. So here goes, the mix is going on. So this is the mixture with all the egg in now. I've given it a good beating, and I don't know whether you can see, but this is just nicely dropping off my spoon now. It's much lighter than it was. I've spent time making sure that that's nicely creamed in, and I am using an electric mixer. You can do these recipes with a wooden spoon by hand, the old-fashioned way. Obviously it takes longer, but it's perfectly possible. So I've got 6 ounces of plain flour here, and I've got 1 3/4 ounces of cocoa, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of the bicarbonate of soda as well. So all of that is going to go into the mix now, and then I'm going to give it a quick mix just to gradually or generally combine it, but not spend too much time beating it now. It doesn't want to beat for any longer than you need just to get those ingredients in. So I'm going to go ahead and add that now. Just a flat spoon of the bicarbonate of soda, because otherwise it will end up quite you can taste the bitterness of it if you put too much into a recipe. Everything's in the bowl. Just be careful when you put your whisk in, because it'll fly all over the place and coat you in cocoa powder if you're not careful. But I'm just going to put it on the lowest setting and gently combine these together. So this is the mixture with everything in and the ingredients combined together. You can see it's gone a nice colour, it's even throughout. In a minute I'm going to scrape down the edges of the bowl at the same time as I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of milk into the mixture. It's the last thing to go in before we put it in the dish. And then make sure that everything is mixed in together really nicely into a smooth mixture. To mix that gently to combine everything. So I'm just scraping down the edge of the bowl to make sure that all of the cocoa powder is in. It's coming together really nicely now. And then I'll just give that one more zap. That's what our mixture looks like when it's ready to go into the dish. Just got ready a roasting pan with boiling water in it, because this dish is going to stand in there in the oven in a minute. I'm using my well-greased dish that we prepared at the beginning, and I'm just popping that chocolate mix into the dish now. And then in a minute we're going to put the ingredients together that will in the end cause this to split in the oven and make both a sponge pudding and a separate sauce. And it's the particular quantities of the ingredients that we're putting in there, combined with the method of baking it in an oven in a tin of hot water, which will create steam in the oven as well, that causes it to separate out and make this lovely rich chocolatey sauce too. Just scrape that all off and just spread it around the dish, making sure you get properly into the corners with this as well. If you spread it evenly through the dish, then you're going to get an even cook in the oven. Whereas if it's deeper or too much difference in height, it'll burn in some places and not be ready in the ovens. So just scrape the extra bit onto the top. That's good. Okay. So then now in this bowl I'm going to put 2.5 ounces of soft brown sugar, the same as you used in the cake recipe. Two tablespoonfuls of cocoa, and then that's going to be mixed with 6 tablespoons of boiling water. Just mix that thoroughly through, so that there's no lumps left in there and it's all smooth. You can see now that this is all mixed through, just a thick chocolatey mixture, and all you do is just pour it all the way over the sponge pudding, scrape out what's left in that bowl so that you really do get everything, And then, as I say, we're going to pop this dish into the tin of boiling water, just so that the water comes about halfway up the side of that dish. And then we'll put the whole thing in the oven, which is at 170 degrees, and it's going to cook for 45 minutes. So I've just got the steamed sponge pudding out of the oven. Hopefully that sauce has made itself in the bottom of the dish, but the proof is going to be in a minute when I stick a spoon in it and we see what it looks like. So just texture wise, you can see this is cracked on the top, which is how we want it to be. Quite firm cooked sponge on the top here, but here goes. Do be very careful of the pan of hot steaming water that you've got there as well. I don't know whether you can see down inside that dish, but here is the melted chocolate sauce that's cooked into the bottom of that pan. Lovely.